I'm responding to Michael Goodwin's arguments about the loss of the freedom to fail. While I acknowledge the truth behind some of his arguments, I feel that he's grossly simplifying the issue and failing to notice the real areas where a loss of freedom to fail is truly destructive to the social fabric. For instance, in the case of social promotion in American high schools, Goodwin is right to point out that students are being done a disservice when they're given a false sense of adequacy. However, as Goodwin also points out, they're given a rude awakening the moment they reach college and begin to struggle with the workload. This is a problem if you happen to be one of these individual students, but I fail to see how this would come to threaten society at large in a major way. You may be able to fake your way to a high school diploma, but you can't fake your way to running a nuclear reactor. Society will never run out of the skilled professionals it needs, especially when you consider the new realities of globalization and the fact that new advances in technology tend to permeate borders and it doesn't really matter where they originated. Mr. Goodwin goes on to link social promotion with the crisis in the education system in general, but I fail to see the logic here. A high amount of social promotion in our high schools would tend to give us the false impression that our education system was succeeding, not failing. I think most who really research the education crisis will find that the solutions lie in increased compensation for effective teachers, removing the tenure system that makes it difficult to eliminate ineffective teachers, but above all, finding ways to increase parent involvement in every student's education, the rates of which are assuredly affected by the oscillation of the general social welfare. Which brings me to my next point. Without offering any evidence to illustrate a connection, Goodwin jumps from discussing social promotion in education to social welfare in general, failing to point out that there's neither public nor governmental clamor to increase the number of Americans on welfare. If anything, there is pressure to do the opposite. Then Goodwin states, and I quote, "If we make the social net permanent for all people at all times, we will be taking away the incentive to succeed, knowing that someone will always be there to rescue us." Look, the average welfare check for an American is about $360 a month, with another $80 per child and about $250 a month in food stamps. If Goodwin really believes that people living on this amount of money are truly content with their lives, then I suggest he try it himself for a while and see what he thinks afterwards. Being on welfare is still a failure, both in terms of the social stigma and the quality of life that most Americans aspire to. Does Goodwin believe that freedom to fail means the freedom to starve to death? Because I don't think that's a necessary ingredient for a vital society. The idea that social welfare prevents people from striving, creating, and inventing is absurd. As a species, we were creating for thousands of years before we had anything that resembled a modern government anywhere. And I'd like to see if Goodwin could name for me a single artist who ever stopped creating the moment he or she earned enough money to survive. Furthermore, I think it's pretty easy to see how if more people had a minimal social net, they would be more, not less likely to take innovative risks and engage in entrepreneurial endeavors rather than being concerned with earning any immediate income no matter how underemployed one might feel. No one should misunderstand me, however, because the loss of the freedom to fail is a real danger. The real danger, however, exists in the arenas of big business and power politics. I see a loss of the freedom to fail in the billions of dollars in annual subsidies the government gives from everyone from corn farmers to oil companies. I see a loss of the freedom to fail in the way the corporate media is designed to create fear, thereby manufacturing the public consent and ensuring that endless sums of money keep pouring into the Pentagon. I see a lack of the freedom to fail in the Supreme Court ruling on Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission, which will allow whichever political candidate with the richest corporate backers to bombard the airwaves, completely dominate the debate, and virtually ensure election. I also see a lack of freedom to fail in the $700 billion Wall Street bailout. I know the money was repaid, but the point is this establishes a dangerous precedent where profits are private but losses are public. To me, it seems like our economy is going back to the endless boom and bust cycle of the 19th century. Everyone back then knew that the system wasn't working, and that's the reason we created things like the Fed and the SEC in the first place. These are the things we need to really worry about because they all represent the way the system is rigged in favor of the corporate plutocrats to the detriment of everyone else.